right, Jude, we're on it, I think. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another exciting of old school, new school football. I'm Will Masisak. I think I'm the old school part of this. He's Jude Allume. He's the new school part of this.
We're still figuring it out.
Yeah, I think actually, maybe next season I'll be the new school. I'll come in with all sorts of new school thinking and talk analytics and stuff.
Can't see it happening.
Old school guy, like, blue collar, hard nosed football. Anyway, speaking of NFL axioms, Jude, one of them is, it's a week to week league. Another one is, parity is the goal of the league. Has the league achieved its ultimate goal of parity? It seems like on any given Sunday, Jude, perhaps even on any given Thursday or Monday, teams who are not as good as other teams on paper can win, not just win, but win convincingly, or they can even tie. What did you make of this week's NFL games? It was kind of madness.
Yeah, we have 2 weeks in a row now. I feel like we've got some major upsets going on. The biggest one probably being for me Monday night, San Francisco just making the Rams look like a team that doesn't know how to play football or forgot how to play football. This is a dominant defense, and it had a really good MVP candidate at quarterback in Matthew Stafford, and all of a sudden back-to-back weeks giving up early picks, and they just can't come back and find a way to rally to a victory. It's unfortunate, and all of a sudden it's kind of that continuing trend we've had where here's a team that everyone's thinking this is the champion to be of the league, and they're playing a team that they should easily beat, and it just doesn't happen. It's a nasty defeat. I mean, every week, like literally the last at least 4 weeks in a row, it's like, okay, this is the best team in the league, lose. Okay, this is the best team in the league, lose. This is the best team in the league for sure, lose. And I mean, I guess the parity is true. As cliche as it sounds, any given Sunday, any team is liable to lose. Any team is liable to win. I mean, it can happen to anyone, and we're just seeing it happen week after week.
I think we're just one Green Bay Packers loss to like Minnesota or Detroit away from, having the Yahtzee. It seems like every team that's anointed as the best team has at least one terrible loss, with the exception of maybe the Packers. So maybe that means the Packers are the favorites, man. I don't know. Yeah. Matthew Stafford, though, he's like water. Eventually he will find his own level. And there's something about primetime games and Matthew Stafford and playoff games, maybe. Matthew Stafford, it's just it was not at all. It's not so unexpected, that part of it, the equation that eventually Matthew Stafford might show a couple of chinks in the armor, because you can win with Sean McVay's in your ear telling you what to do, running, putting together a good offense, but ultimately in a game where the defense is really on it, your quarterback has to make plays and not give the ball away and stuff like that. So. They're that example, we talked about a team. You got a really good defense, and you have to have at least a good enough quarterback or a really great offense and a good enough defense. The Rams are sort of stuck in limbo with that. I think they have a slightly better than, good enough defense and a slightly better than good enough quarterback, but I'm not sure either unit is really like dominant.
I think they have a really good defense, and when he's not giving up 2 picks to the opposing team to start a game, you have a really good offense with the Rams. I mean, the last 2 weeks in a row is kind of the same script. I guess the real story would be, these guys just can't really come from behind. But in every other game they've played this season, you're seeing a really good defensive team. You're seeing Jalen Ramsey just absolutely blanket whoever it is he's covering, and it's almost impossible to get even a completion against him when he's in coverage. You're seeing Aaron Donald be Aaron Donald. And I feel like it's just a matter of time before they get Von Miller acclimated, and then that defense is really going to transform, because they already had a fearsome pass rush even before Von Miller was there. So I feel like he can only add onto what they already have. And then offensively, yes, they lost Robert Woods, so it was really tough for them. I guess you can cut them a little bit of slack, because he was definitely an important piece of that offense. Yes, Cooper Kupp is putting up the monster numbers this year, but it's Robert Woods who's getting all those jet sweeps, who's getting all those, passes over the middle and making those tough catches when they really needed, kind of like a safety blanket aside from Cooper Kupp. And then you get OBJ, but it's on 4 days of practice. You can clearly see he didn't know all of the playbook. He only played on about 15 snaps. So it's just a matter of time before, he gets up to date and familiar with that offense, and he'll kind of fill in for Robert Woods. And I think they should be able to just pick up where they left off. And this could have been an anomaly. I know I said that last week when they lost, but this can really be an anomaly for them. And Sean McVay is dedicated to finding a reason why they lost these 2 games in a row. The 2 picks definitely don't help. That you might want to start right there, but I definitely think he'll be able to get them back on track, prevent those early turnovers, and they won't have to play from behind anymore.
I don't know. To me, I think they were a really good pass defense. And when they get the lead on you, they're built to have their pass rush come after you and whatever. But if they don't build the lead on you because they made early mistakes or the other team stopped them, then I think you're seeing the results the last 2 weeks. What they looked like under pressure. I'm not really convinced that they're a good run defense, and that's if teams now figure out that that's the way you beat them, then you run the ball away from Aaron Donald. Your chances of having success against that team are a lot better than if you throw it around the yard 50 times.
Right.
So I think that's it's to be seen if other teams can exploit that. But the last 2 definitely managed to. What else was? The Browns getting the Browns shellacking the Bengals and then turning around and getting shellacked themselves. What do you make of that now? And now it sounds like also that Chubb is out indefinitely. It's a mess in Cleveland.
I think Chubb should be back. He did have the COVID shot, so it should be a 1-game absence for him. Granted, he's still listed on the COVID list. He hasn't been activated yet, but the protocol and, drawing from what other players who've had the COVID shot and unfortunately found themselves on the COVID list. But
was he not injured also? I thought he was also hurt.
It was just the COVID thing for him. But, it's kind of just another game to show how important he is to this franchise. When he doesn't play, they tend to lose. So this is another game where he didn't play and they lost. They weren't able to establish the run. Dearness Johnson played valiantly, but it's not quite the same. He's not Nick Chubb. And now it's kind of going back to what we've been saying all season where, okay, the running game isn't doing what we want it to do. Can we rely on Baker a little bit more? And the answer is no. So obviously we need Nick Chubb because Baker Mayfield is not the guy, and he's proven it time and time again. He's not the guy that's going to just go out there, put the team on his back and carry to victory. The biggest surprise for me was the defense, So what they want to do is kind of what Tennessee is doing, play that really good defense, pound the ball a ton. So obviously the run the ball a ton didn't work out for them after they were trailing early, but you still have a pretty decent defense, or at least what's supposed to be a decent defense. Didn't look like that. You had Mac Jones lighting you up, the rookie quarterback, just making you guys look bad out there. Myles Garrett was sort of like a disappearing act in that game. Like, here we are thinking, okay, he's going to make it real tough on the rookie. He's going to apply pressure all game. And it just wasn't that, He looked very poised. He looked very calm and in control of his offense. He might be a sneaky pick for Rookie of the Year right now. Maybe not even sneaky. He might be the favorite for Rookie of the Year right now.
I would say so. Yeah.
Just on the basis that, yes, he's not flashy. He's not putting up monstrous numbers, but he's consistent. He's leading his team to wins. And, a hot take like 3 or 4 weeks ago is kind of coming to fruition where it was like New England is going to find a way into the playoffs. And it's looking like a wild card is not at all out of the question for them, sitting at 6-4. Probably won't beat the Bills out for the division, but these guys look like they're poised to make the playoffs with Mac Jones as the leader. And it's amazing what Bill Belichick is able to do. It looks like he's found his replacement for Tom Brady, but just a bad game for the Browns. Really good game for the Patriots. And I know they have to be really happy with how their rookie quarterback is playing right now.
Yeah, I mean, in a season full of mysteries in the NFL, trying to figure out the New England Patriots is definitely one of them. They have, like we said last week, couple of their wins against teams that really aren't very good, especially at the time they played them. Even this win against Cleveland, it's like I want to be convinced because on paper, the Browns don't appear to be that much worse than the Patriots, so they kind of killed them. But yeah, no Chubb sort of makes it has a fairly big impact in this game. But I don't know, like going forward, it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, their record where they sit now, puts them in the postseason, and they probably, even if they maintain this level of play, are going to have a good record. But there's also there's not much of a gap down to the top 10 between the top team and the 10th team in the conference is not a big margin, especially between 2 and 10. So I think there's all it takes is a couple of weeks in a row of losing bad games, and you're right back in the below the line category. But yeah, for the moment, I was impressed by the win, how they did it. And I'm not a big believer in the Browns, but I think the Browns that's a pretty quality win for New England with its rookie quarterback.
Yeah. I don't mean, hey, man, it's 4 wins in a row, regardless who you're playing. That's tough to do in the NFL. But I like what you mentioned there as far as the quality of opponents that they're playing. We're going to get a chance to see just how good they actually are. You get probably another very winnable game against the Falcons. But that's also a game that can easily go the opposite direction. It just depends on which Falcon team shows up. But then you get the Titans and then you get the Bills. So 2 really tough contests right there. You get the Colts after that. You get the Bills again. So that's 4 games in a row with teams near the top or at the top of their division. So it can really help determine how they're going to shake out in this playoff run right now.
Yeah. Let's for a second talk about the AFC North.
Yeah.
Think about the last game for each of the 4 teams in the NFC North. Baltimore lost to Miami. Cleveland got shellacked by New England. The Bengals got absolutely buried by Cleveland the week before. And Pittsburgh, without its starting quarterback, granted, and without TJ Watt for much of the game, tied Detroit. Is there any division of football that's ever had where you could say that about their last 4 games? A tie against Detroit was the best result any of them had in the last game.
I pat myself on the back because I had that as an upset watch right there. No Big Ben, and I've just seen too much. What's this guy's name? Your backup quarterback,
Mason Rudolph. Oh,
Mason Rudolph. I've seen too much Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, but when we talked on the show, Ben, it was not even there was no chance.
It wasn't known yet. Yeah, it wasn't there yet. But
you watched that game. I'm a Steelers fan, but let me ask you.
Once I saw it, it was the way that the Lions are just hungry for a win and desperate and pulling out all the stops against teams that they do play. I felt like they're going to do everything they can to make this that first win just to avoid going the 0-17. Technically, they will avoid going 0-17.
I'm saying, do you feel like they feel like
no?
I guess
you're not excited for a tie.
It should have been a Detroit upset. So should the Steelers feel better about it being a tie? I mean, the ties are weird.
I think it's worse for the Steelers because you still have a really good defense. You still got your marquee running back in Najee Harris. So you still want to, especially as a team with, playoff aspirations, championship aspirations, you still want to find yourself being able to win even though you don't have Ben Roethlisberger, especially when you have possibly the worst team in the NFL as your opponent. Right. You want to find a way to make it.
No, I think it's yes, the Steelers' weakness for stopping the run against certain styles of offenses was painfully exposed. But I think this game is an illustration of how much difference quarterback play makes. It's not about statistics. It's just about, people want to call it managing the game as if that's denigrating, but it's just making the handful of plays in a game that give you the chance to win, that, get one more set of downs, that gets you another opportunity in the red zone, et cetera. You just don't, try not to miss open guys and try to convert on third down, not to turn the ball over. And that makes a huge difference. And so when people wanted to say for a month now that the Steelers are winning despite Ben Roethlisberger, all I had to say was, if you watch the games, it's like they needed him to make the contributions that he made, or they wouldn't have won. They probably wouldn't have won any of those 4 games that they won in a row. And this was a perfect example of why. Yes, it's a big downgrade, even from 39-year-old Ben Roethlisberger to Mason Rudolph. I mean, it's terrible. And I don't know if you heard any of the scuttlebutt about Dwayne Haskins, but there's a possibility Dwayne Haskins is going to get cut. Yeah. wasn't prepared and wasn't mentally involved in pregame warmups this last week, even though he was on the active 53 and was one snap away from playing. But they basically felt like they couldn't even go to him in the game, even if Mason Rudolph struggled, because he wasn't mentally prepared to be out there. He was apparently throwing lazy passes in warmups, according to a DT. And he was also on his cell phone and stuff during warmups. It's like, if you're Dwayne Haskins, you can't afford to do any of that kind of stuff. You have to be a model. You have to be a model student, a model teammate. So yeah, their backup quarterback situations in the toilet. That being said, they're the top wild card right now. They're a half game out of first place in their division.
You, as a Steelers fan, you would hope that they can go 4-4 and find a way into the playoffs, but they've got a real tough slate of games left for them here. They've got, geez Louise, I'm all top.
The Chargers, first of all, on Sunday night. Browns, Bengals, Ravens twice, Minnesota. Yeah, just hit the list when you're ready, man. It was the technical difficulties. We got disrupted.
Yeah, exactly what you said. Chargers, that's a game. Chargers are a team that's also in flux. They can win, they can lose. I guess we can mark that as a win for them. Bengals.
Don't forget, it'll be a home game for the Steelers.
No, I think the Chargers is a home game for the Chargers. That's
what I'm saying. It's in Los Angeles. It'll be a home game for the Steelers. Did you see the last Chargers-Steelers game in LA? It was about 70 to 80% Steelers fans. It'll be close to that again.
I mean, I guess. But nonetheless, it's still them going on the road. But again, I'm going to count it as a W for them. Against the Bengals, the second game against the Bengals, they lost in that first game. Bengals this time are going to be at home. I don't know. There's a really good chance that they lose 2 games to the Bengals here. The Ravens, they usually play tough. They can split, but I don't think they have enough firepower to match with the Ravens this year. They're going to lose those 2 games. The Titans, I don't think are as good as their record would indicate without Derrick Henry, at least. If you look at that offense that the Titans have had since Derrick Henry has gone down with the injury, it is not good. Their defense has really carried them. Is that something that they can really ride on until the end of the season? I don't think so. This might be a game that they can steal. So that's 2 victories I'll give your Steelers. The Vikings, another game where the Vikings either going to play up or they're going to play down. I'll go ahead and give it to you. So I'll give you those 3 games. Now, this last game with the Browns, that's where you get your chance to really solidify your playoff chances. Again, a second game. You played the Browns at home, beat them 15-10. You get another game at home against the Browns again. I don't know. The Browns are like, 1 week we're going to tease all of our fans and show them that we can be real good or that we are real good. The next week, we're going to show them, hey, we're just as frustrating as we've been the last 20-some years. But as long as Big Ben is healthy, as long as you're handing the ball off to Najee Harris, as long as your defense is up to par, I'll go ahead and give you this win. So you know what? The 4-4 is not out of the question, but it's also like if everything goes right for you, you're going to go 4-4 in these last 8 games.
As a Steelers fan, more accurately, they'll win at least 2 games you totally don't expect them to win, like they go to Buffalo and win. They'll lose 2 games you totally expect them to win, like going to Minnesota and losing. And they'll probably finish 4-4. I mean, that is the Steelers' way. But with the way the league is right now, I don't know how you can look at the Chargers, for instance, and say, even if COVID wasn't affecting this game, everybody was totally healthy and totally playing for the Steelers and Chargers. They're even, their records are relatively even. Their play has been up and down in the same kind of way. So I kind of feel like, everybody in the whole AFC is so close to one another that game outcomes are just going to be, how you played that day, how you executed, and if you made mistakes or not.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Did the Chiefs? Were you impressed with the Chiefs bounce back? Yeah,
I was to an extent because it kind of looked like they got the ball rolling. They were back to their old self. Patrick Mahomes already called it. They've got their swagger back. I don't know if it's necessarily their swagger back. That being them being the team that we've grown accustomed to seeing, but it was good to get a little memory of what they used to be. This is a Raiders team that has a lot of injuries. They have a lot of injuries in that secondary. And, they just have so many things going on outside of football that it's undoubtedly going to be hard for them to just focus all their energy on the actual game that they had in front of them. That being said, I did anticipate a closer game, a game that maybe the Raiders could possibly squeak out a victory. And it was the complete and total opposite. So kudos to the Chiefs. I don't know if we can credit everything to Melvin Ingram, but that defense looks a lot better, a lot more formidable since he's been there. The pass rush looks a little bit better. Frank Clark, he was applying some pressure as well. Chris Jones, he's doing much better now that he's back in the middle as opposed to them playing him outside. And it just looks like whatever that they've adjusted, it's at least making them a better defense that's not just giving up huge play after huge play after huge play. Offensively, it's the first time we've seen Patrick Mahomes look good in the last 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, nobody was going to say that, he's lost it or he's washed or, something's wrong with him. You're going to say it was just a tough stretch of games for him. So it's good to see him get back to what we're used to seeing, the 400-plus yards, the 5 touchdowns, the limited mistakes. He was throwing a lot of interceptions, already more turnovers this season than he had all of last season. So it's good to see Patrick Mahomes playing at the elite level that we're accustomed to. And even the running game was doing much better, even though they're without their top running back still. And you know what? It's got to be a good sign for them, something they can hang their hat on and hope to build on. And who excuse me. And we're hopeful that, it's going to continue a trend because the NFL undoubtedly is more exciting when the Chiefs are playing well and playing their brand of football with the big plays and Patrick Mahomes just throwing no-look passes all over the field.
It's better when the Chiefs are doing their thing. Well, let's transition to talking. Use that as a transition point to go into talking about this week's games. The Dallas Cowboys are one of those teams that they suddenly have one of the best records in the NFL. I think maybe the third best record in the NFL. And their next 2 games are an interesting combination. They play Kansas City this weekend, and they host the Raiders on Thursday for Thanksgiving. Let's talk in particular about this the matchup this weekend against the Chiefs. But what do you figure that Dallas? How does Dallas survive that test?
So the Chiefs really, really hope that. I guess they're happy that they're coming off this last game where they're able to play some sort of resemblance of how they're accustomed to playing, or at least, again, not to sound like a broken record, the Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense that we've grown used to seeing over the last couple of years. I'm saying they're happy that they got that last week so they can build off of it and hopefully continue it, because I'm thinking this could be a game where it's going to be a lot of points scored, where the Dallas Cowboys are a team offensively can keep up with anybody, can put up points, minus, the game against, was it the Browns like 2 or 3 weeks ago, where they just looked completely outmanned and outmatched and they couldn't get anything going.
Denver,
right. They couldn't get anything going offensively. I think that's the thing in the past. I think what we saw last week is much more likely what's going to happen. So I think it's going to be an offensive onslaught. The Dallas defense, another defense that's kind of like questionable, suspect to me. Yes, they put up numbers. Yes, they get turnovers. But a lot of the times it's like they make those flash plays, but then the regular plays that they should be making, they don't make it. And they let teams creep back into games and give up those late scores that make it more of a competition than it's supposed to be. So it's really going to be a good game, I feel like. And again, a lot of points should be scored. It's kind of going to be which quarterback is going to end up with the ball last and which quarterback can make more plays for their team. If we have to pick Patrick Mahomes or Dak Prescott, I'm still going to go with Patrick Mahomes, even though Dak Prescott is playing out of this world right now. But I think what really might factor into this game is which running game can, help out their quarterback a little bit more. I'm going to put my money on Zeke just because the Chiefs in the running game, granted, the last game I did say they did a good job. It's not something that I'm expecting every week in, week out. And Ezekiel Elliott, 2 touchdowns last week, not a lot of yards, but they also have Tony Pollard just there to, carrying the ball, I think at like a 6 yards per carry clip. So it's a much better running game in Dallas. So I think, even though they're going to be on the road at Arrowhead, I think the Dallas Cowboys can squeak out a win in this one.
Yeah, I think, I got confused a little bit there. The Chiefs struggled against Green Bay in their previous game. Dallas struggled against Denver in their previous game. So I think I said Denver, and you were talking about Kansas City. I feel like this game is a close game because neither team is necessarily playing its best football right now. Therefore, I'll take the team that's playing at home whatever home field advantage there's left in the NFL. It's been sort of decreasing the last few years. I feel like this is a week where the Chiefs can definitely make a difference in that regard. So I think I don't fully believe in the Chiefs, but I don't fully believe in the Cowboys either. And I think they're due to revert to the mean a little bit as well. I think they only have 2 losses, so it's time for them to get loss number 3, just like Tennessee. Although I don't know if this is the week for Tennessee doing that. What do you make of this Arizona-Seattle game? First of all, is Arizona going to get its quarterback back for this game? How do you see this working out, Seattle?
So Kyler Murray was trending to play. He came down to a game time decision. So yes, it sucks for the Cardinals because ultimately they decided, you know what, we're not comfortable with where you're at right now. But he gets another week to get better, to get prepared for the game. So I feel like that is kind of a sign that he will be ready and he will play in this game against the Seattle Seahawks. On the other side of it, the other quarterback, Russell Wilson, I don't know how good that finger is right now, if it's completely 100%. Yes, everyone was praising how he was able to come back ahead of time. And, he was there to play for them last week in his first game back. And it wasn't the greatest of games for Russell Wilson. The first time in his 10 seasons that Seattle was shut out. I mean, shutouts don't happen much in the NFL period, but much less for it to happen to Russell Wilson and how he's in command of that offense and how they are able to sometimes at will just score points on anybody. For them to have been shut out, it raises some concerns for me. I definitely feel like that finger is not 100%. It did look like some of the throws were a little bit errant and he wasn't completely comfortable with it. So I hope, just for the sake of better football and, Russell Wilson being a great quarterback, I hope that maybe it was just an anomaly and he is good and he's ready to go. But against the Cardinals, especially if they get Kyler Murray back, that's going to be something that might be a little too tough for them to swallow, especially since, there's still questions on their defense. They spent a lot of money on a lot of guys and it looks like a lot of it was a miss. I mean, I'm not going to say these guys are bust, but as far as compatibility and playing as a unit, these guys just aren't there yet. They've played better as of late, but it's still not a complete package. They did a good job against the Packers, but not good enough to get the win, especially when you factor in that, Russell Wilson is not looking 100%. So this isn't a team that you can say, hey, defense, just put us in position to win and, we'll take care of the rest. You need Russell Wilson to put up points against the Cardinals, but I don't think they'll be able to put up enough points, especially, again, if Kyler Murray plays. This offense is going to put up a ton of points on a very mediocre defense, and I'm not sure that Russell Wilson is 100%, so I don't know that Seattle can keep up and, make this an actual game.
I think this middle of the season, it's like the doldrums, the dog days of baseball. Get in the middle of the season where teams everybody is sort of like struggling to maintain the early energy they had, and they're realizing they still have half a season to go. I think that's the issue with the Cardinals. The Cardinals are like, hey, I lost our quarterback for a couple of games. And it's just like it's not as fun as it once was, and we got to get through the stretch so that we can get healthy again and play good football again down the stretch. But for Seattle, they're just not that good, I think, is really what it boils down to. You would think with Russell Wilson and those 2 receivers, and a decent running game that they would be better than they are, but they have just struggled to put it together this year. And I mean, yes, there's a half a season left to go. Maybe they can find their way into the playoffs somehow and get hot. But yeah, I kind of think this is the game where Arizona on their worst day is still pretty good. And Seattle hasn't shown me that they can play right now.
Literally, their only hope is that.
Speak. Yeah. There's two teams that were hot at the beginning of the year, and neither one of them is really playing good football, at least the last week or so. And that would be your Las Vegas Raiders against your Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati going out to Vegas. What do you think what are the chances of one of this game?
Can you repeat the question, please? I didn't quite hear it.
Oh, sorry. I was saying Las Vegas and Cincinnati both sort of struggling a little bit right now. One of these teams has to win unless they're Pittsburgh or Detroit. So which team do you think comes out of this with?
This is a tough one. I mean, just like you said, both of these teams kind of up and down all season. The Bengals, I think, 3 weeks removed from being the top seed in the AFC, and now they're kind of second or third in their division right now. It's just, I don't know. And then same thing with the Raiders, not too far removed from being a 5-3 teams, 2 wins in a row that really had everybody like, hey, maybe losing John Gruden was best for them. They're playing some of their best football, but all of a sudden that's like a distant memory after a loss to the Giants. And it's tough to call because it's like which team is gonna make less mistakes. Which team is going to show up, because both of them just have such difficulty showing up consistently. That being said, it might just end up being a really good game because both of them have shown you they can play quality football. It is going to be at Las Vegas. So I guess, just like you said, even home field advantage isn't quite a thing this season in the NFL. But I guess just for the sake of finding a reason to give somebody an edge, I'll give it to the Raiders. But I have more faith in that Bengals offense as long as Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are able to get things rolling again. Josh Jacobs hasn't quite looked the same. He's battled through a lot of injuries this season, nagging little injuries that haven't kept him out all or for an extended period of time, missing games here and there. And it just looks like he's probably playing hurt as opposed to really sitting down and healing all these nagging injuries. And Joe Mixon, on the other hand, he's having a hell of a season so far. So offensively, at the very least, I like the Bengals a lot more. So you know what? I'm going to retract what I said about that home field advantage and kind of just, push the narrative of it kind of being non-existent in the league this year. And just from an offensive standpoint, I like what the Bengals have to offer a lot more than what the Raiders do, especially when you couple that with all the injuries that the Raiders have on defense too. I think, this could be the Bengals game to win, but again, both of these teams are kind of just so mediocre and middle of the pack that it can really go anyway.
I mean, but one of them is probably a playoff team. That's the thing about the AFC right now.
Yeah. You know what? It's not even crazy if both of them end up making the playoffs this season. But you know what? That's just the year we're having right now.
I mean, I guess all I would say about this game is I don't think either team, like I said, is playing very well. But here's, to me, there's an advantage for the Raiders. Their pass rush is pretty good. Going against an offensive line for Cincinnati that for like a month now has been struggling. So I could see that being an issue for them if Cincinnati is unable to really do what it wants to do on offense, then that swings a close game in the Raiders' direction, I think. So we pretty much talked about the it's a short week of the NFL. So let me just ask you this. Is there a game we didn't talk about that has the most upset potential for you? What game would you say? I'll leave that as your last thought today.
Ooh. You know, the Colts and there's a lot of games that have upset potential. Colts and Bills.
Bills. You're the one that said you were ready to put the Detroit on an upset watch, so I'm giving you your shot. Call your shot.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, it's Detroit. Just when that was last week. Well, not last week. Just after I saw that Ben Roethlisberger wasn't going to play, that's when I said this is the game for them. I'm not saying against a fully healthy team, I'm putting my chips on Detroit. However, this is I know what you're like trying to point me towards, but I don't like it 100%.
No. It doesn't have to be that.
I'm not confident. I'm not confident in saying that the Browns are going to be the victim and give the Lions their first win. I could see the Vikings pulling off an upset at home against the Packers. Aaron Rodgers, though they were able to pull out a victory, it could be one of those situations. We saw it a lot last season where guys come back from COVID, and even though they've done the quarantine and they've been away from the team and stuff like that, they're just not playing up to par. Maybe some lasting effects. He didn't have the greatest of games. Yes, again, they pulled out a victory, but it was a 17-0 victory against the Seahawks. I don't think if you ask anybody what the outcome was going to be, that was going to be a score that, you know, most people were going to give you. Another game that's interesting, you know, I don't know why it's like a gut feeling. The Giants versus the Bucks. It is the Giants on the road, but the Giants do play some scrappy defense. Daniel Jones, the wins aren't there, but he's having the best season of his career, hands down. And we're going to get back Saquon Barkley in this game as well. Another much needed element. And it's kind of going to be a two-headed monster because, I forget. What's the backup running back for the Giants?
From Clemson.
No, not from Clemson.
Oh, you might be on your own on this one.
Nonetheless, he's been filling in greatly in Saquon Barkley's absence. So it could be a nice little 1-2 punch to kind of ease Saquon back in there, but still be able to take advantage of Saquon's big playability, keeping him fresh for down the line. I know this is the best run defense in the NFL, but they've been a little susceptible to the run as of late, and they've been playing a lot of teams close. Coming off an upset against the Washington Redskins too. I mean, I don't think they dropped 2 games in a row, but I don't think it's completely unheard of.
Devonta Booker.
There we go.
I think, you know, both of those are interesting, and like, yeah, they fit the model of like you could see where the opening is for the team. And the Giants, you know, playing a little better as of late. I'll go with Chicago over Baltimore. It's going to be a bad weather game.
You hope so.
And it's going to be two quarterbacks, the focal point of their offense's running game, which is going to be an unusual thing to see. But I kind of feel like, I feel like the Ravens are coming off the bye, but they've been slow starting all year. So coming off the bye, I think makes you even more slow starting usually. That could be a recipe for, because the Bears, the games they've lost, they basically got down early and then came back. They're like, they play similar to the Ravens. So I don't know. Just feel like that weather's always a little bit of an equalizer. The Bears defense isn't terrible. And you got this wild card with a quarterback that can run the football. So that would be if I'm going to guess, I have to pick an upset. That's the one I'm going to go with. Jude, another fine week. Sorry, we had a little bit of technical issues, but that's
technical difficulties.
That's the way it goes when you're making live television.
We saw it through. That's
we
what
did.
matters.
It's like, hey, we embraced the adversity. We didn't run from it, to use a Mike Tomlinism. Anyway, Jude, hopefully we don't need our backup quarterbacks next week, backup host because of COVID. Stay healthy. In the meantime, hit the like button, subscribe, and we punch it out. This is Old School, New School Football. Terrible sound effects. We should pay for sound effects.
That was tough. Yeah.
Definitely not good.